Whether you like Bitcoin or don't like Bitcoin, agree with it or disagree with it, my goal for you is that you're going to educate yourself and learn about this asset class so that you understand it. Now, I care very little about the actual price of Bitcoin, but this is an investing channel and we're here to try to make some money, so I am going to center around the price for this video today. The simplest reason why this asset will continue to skyrocket in price is because there's only so many of these Bitcoin. And at the current point, there's already 10 times more demand than there is supply, and pretty soon there's going to be about 25 times more demand than there is supply. For any of my business majors out there, price goes way up when demand is higher than supply. The reason this demand is going to be up so much more very, very soon is because the supply of Bitcoin is about to be cut in half. This has happened multiple times over the past decade, and each time it's made Bitcoin price skyrocket. But this time, this halving is much, much different.
All right, so Bitcoin set down to go yet another halving event, probably sometime in the next month. And you got to take a look at this because it rallied like huge after the last one. This, I think, will be the fourth one to bring a Pomp investment investor, Anthony Pompliano. And, you know, this halving thing, explain to the audience, or let's try to explain to the audience what it is. So we have here the last time it happened. And you can see where Bitcoin was like a 10 grand. Sort of, you know, now we're at 70,000. Seems like it could be a good thing.
Let's go back supply and demand, right? If you have a supply and demand stays constant, but supply gets cut in half, obviously the price has to adjust to accommodate everyone. That's what happened back here in 2020. Bitcoin's trading about $8,000. We got a supply that cut in half, and then obviously price runs. Now, what's interesting is right now, 900 Bitcoin per day are being produced. If you think in kind of gold terms, that's literally gold being dug out of the ground. This is Bitcoin being produced. It's net new Bitcoin coming into supply. But when we hit this halving occur, we're going to go from 900 to 450. Now, what's interesting is right now, there is the equivalent of 9,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin per day in demand. So already we're at 10x more demand than supply. That's this huge price increase that we've seen. So once we go through this halving, if demand stays the same, we may be at 20 to 25x more demand than what the network is producing every single day. And I think that's why people are so bullish on Bitcoin's price.
And the max will be 21 million, right?
There will only ever be 21 million that are out in circulation. That'll take until 2140. Unfortunately, for most of us that are watching or talking right now, we're going to be dead by then. But 90% of the Bitcoin's already out in circulation, and about 70% of that Bitcoin has not moved.
So like he said, there's ever only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. And now with the halving, it's going to make it much harder for us to mine one Bitcoin, meaning that each one is going to be worth much, much more. And like I said, and like he said, each time that we've had this halving in the past, the price has gone up crazy, but traditionally the price then drops about a year later. The thing that's different about this halving and the price moving forward is going to be the consistency and sustainability of that actual price level. This next bull run could produce a Bitcoin at the $150,000 to $250,000 level. And then we're looking at the possibility that it doesn't drop substantially in price afterward. And there's one very big reason for this.
But 90% of the Bitcoin's already out in circulation, and about 70% of that Bitcoin has not moved. So what ends up happening is you have a very illiquid supply, and then you're going to get it more scarce in terms of the daily incoming supply.
That's what they mean when they say diamond hands.
Listen,
that's real diamond hands.
Bitcoiners are teaching traditional finance investors what it means to truly have conviction, to really hold an asset, and to hold through all that volatility. And what I think is really fascinating here is the people who are now buying the ETF, they realize this is a high volatility asset, but it continues to go up over a very long period of time. And so the volatility in the short term forces you to be a long-term holder, and it actually reinforces many of the best financial kind of lessons that we've learned over the decades.
So first here, what he just ended with was that if you're holding a very solid ETF long-term, that's one of the best financial wisdoms that we've ever figured out. So it's good that you're watching this channel because that's my whole investing thesis, and I hope that you're adopting that as your investing strategy. He also explained here that the thing that's actually driving price up, but also going to keep price up and keep it going, is going to be the fact that people are almost forced to hold Bitcoin because they're investing in these ETFs. People don't buy ETFs with the idea to trade them daily. And so if people are buying and holding, that's going to make sure that the price stays stable and also that it just keeps increasing because there's going to be more demand, but not more supply because people aren't selling. And that's just further going to drive the price of Bitcoin up.
Let's talk about these ETFs. Here it is right here. Look at this. So demand is really just, and you called this right here. How much, I mean, does this feed on itself?
So what's really interesting is Larry Fink, kind of the king of Wall Street, he went and he pushed Bitcoin to an all-time high. When BlackRock said, we want a Bitcoin ETF, they're 575 in one, they're now 576 in one in terms of approvals. And so they were able to help do this. They ushered in not only themselves, Fidelity, many others. Now, what's fascinating to me is you're not only seeing net new interest in these ETFs, you're also seeing BlackRock specifically say, wait a second, if we have access to Bitcoin now, maybe we want to put Bitcoin in our other funds, things like their bond funds, or maybe their income funds. And so I think that Bitcoin is now going to become a standard asset that's put in every portfolio. You see Fidelity in Canada saying 1 to 5% in all portfolios. But I think on Wall Street, people are realizing if I put an asset with a 2.1 Sharpe ratio into my portfolio, it's up 70% or so to start the year. That is going to give me a better overall performance. It's going to change the risk return profile of my current portfolio. And that's going to lead to billions of dollars in the short term and likely going to be trillions of dollars over the long run going into this asset. And if you only have 21 million and demand continues to go up, the price has to appreciate.
So 100,000.
Look,
this summer?
3 of the last 4 times that Bitcoin has hit a new all-time high,
right,
it has doubled in 18 days or less. And so we're right about, in that range now. Obviously, Bitcoin is starting to push up higher. I don't know how quickly it's going to go up, but I would be shocked if we don't hit 100K over the next 12 months.
Now, this whole section was just mind-blowing. Having a Bitcoin ETF is just the start. Now these companies are talking about adding a piece of Bitcoin into other ETFs, where it's just a portion of that ETF. Pretty soon, people are going to be invested in Bitcoin without even knowing about it. They're going to be holding companies that are within the S&P 500, and these companies are going to be primarily dominated with Bitcoin. And then also there's just going to be regular companies that you're already invested in that are now starting to bring that in onto their balance sheet. We're already starting to see worldwide that other countries are starting to adopt it in their ETFs or their mutual funds as well. The Bitcoin ETF has changed Bitcoin price long term, and like I said at the beginning, you don't need to agree with it or even like it, but you do need to educate yourself on this and understand what's happening with it. People didn't agree with or like the internet at first, but now it's an essential part of everyone's life. I made this video earlier this week going over 6 or 7 of the most important Bitcoin questions that people have been asking, so go ahead and start your research by watching this video now.